Welcome to ProSpeak English Dialogue. Today, Alex and Sarah talk about how to interrupt politely in a meeting, how to get a word in without sounding rude, invisible, or like you're starting a fight.
Alex, I need to vent about that sink. Not the topic, the physics of it.
The physics?
Yeah, like sound waves. One person talking, no pause. My point was sitting in my throat for 20 minutes.
A meeting turns into a monologue, one long speech, and everyone else is just audience.
Audience with responsibilities. I had a blocker that affected the timeline, but I couldn't find a gap.
A gap, a little silence where you can jump in. Jump in means start speaking, even if it's quick.
There was no gap, or the gap closed the second I breathed in.
Classic. And in English meetings, there's this extra layer if you're not a native speaker. You want to sound polite, not pushy.
Pushy, too aggressive. I don't want to steamroll anyone either.
Steamroll, talk over people, take all the space, roll right past them.
So I'm stuck between invisible and rude. And the whole time I'm thinking, how do you interrupt politely in a meeting when the room feels locked?
Locked, meaning nobody else has the floor. The floor is basically who's allowed to speak right now.
Take the floor. Get a turn to speak. I wanted the floor for maybe 30 seconds.
30 seconds can change a decision, so it's not a small thing.
Not small. I tried raising my hand, we're on video, and it still didn't register.
Didn't register. They didn't notice, or they didn't stop.
They didn't stop. And I didn't want to be the person who cut someone off mid-sentence.
Cut off, interrupt in a sharp way. There's polite interrupting and rude interrupting.
I need the polite kind, because if I stay quiet, I look like I agree or like I have nothing to add.
Silence reads wrong sometimes. So the skill isn't be louder, it's signal without aggression.
Signal without aggression. Okay. Because my first instinct was not polite.
Let's talk about that first instinct, because a lot of us do the same thing.
My first instinct was frustration. I almost said, "Can I talk now?" with attitude. Attitude, tone. Even if the words are technically a question, the tone can sound like a challenge. Challenge wasn't my goal. I just wanted airtime, space to speak.
Airtime is a good word for it, like radio minutes.
I also tried jumping in without any soft language. Just wait, and then my point.
Hard start. Sometimes it works in a crisis. In a normal meeting, it can sound sharp.
Sharp, a little harsh. I felt the room flinch.
Flinch, people react physically, like they got surprised in a bad way.
Then I overcorrected. I went too soft. Sorry, maybe this is dumb, but...
Too much apology up front can undermine you. People might hear uncertainty instead of content.
Yeah, I sounded like I was asking permission to exist.
So the first attempt swings between fight mode and apologize mode. Neither one lands cleanly.
Fight mode makes me the villain. Apologize mode makes me easy to ignore.
And there's a third failure mode, typing in chat too late. As I said earlier, when nobody heard you.
Chat is weird. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it gets buried while everyone talks.
Chat can be a backup, not your main voice. If the decision happens live, live wins.
Live won. They moved on. My blocker was still true, but the conversation rolled forward.
Rolled forward, continued without integrating your point. That's the cost of waiting too long.
So I wasn't wrong to want in. I was slow, and my delivery was messy.
Messy happens. The goal is a clean package. Short apology for interrupting, then substance.
Short apology, then substance. I can picture that. But in the moment, the room still felt closed.
Closed rooms need a different move. Sometimes it's not what you say first. It's how you signal you're trying to join.
Signal I'm trying to join, like nonverbal stuff?
Yeah, lean in a little, unmute clearly, even a small hand motion if you're on camera. You're not sneaking in, you're visible.
I was muted at the wrong time once. Classic self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage. You accidentally make it harder for yourself.
Another problem, crosstalk. Two people start at once, then both stop, then awkward silence.
Crosstalk, overlapping speech. You can say, go ahead once, but if you always yield, you never speak.
Yield, let the other person go first. I'm too polite sometimes.
Politeness is good, but there's a line where it becomes self-erasing.
Self-erasing, you remove yourself from the conversation.
And then there's hierarchy. Interrupting a peer feels different from interrupting your manager.
Hierarchy, levels of authority. With my manager, I want extra care.
Extra care can mean naming why you're jumping in. I want to flag a risk. Sounds work-related, not personal.
Flag, highlight, call attention to. Flag a risk is very workplace.
It signals you're not interrupting for ego. You're interrupting for the project.
Ego, pride. Okay, but what if someone interrupts me right after I finally start?
You can hold the floor gently. 1 sec. Let me finish this thought. That's a boundary without being rude.
Boundary, a limit. 1 sec is short for 1 second. Super casual.
Casual can be good. Meetings aren't courtroom speeches. You're allowed to be human.
Human is nice. My stress makes me sound robotic or too loud.
Stress does that. So you need phrases you can say when your heart is pounding. Simple ones.
Simple phrases I can rehearse. Not a script for a play, just a few doors.
Doors, ways in. Polite interruption is basically knocking instead of kicking the door down.
Knocking. I like that. Show me the knock.
Okay, soft knock first. Sorry to jump in, or sorry to interrupt.
Sorry to jump in. Quick apology, then you go. You're not asking for a 10-minute monologue.
Right. Pair it with the reason. Sorry to jump in, there's a dependency issue on the ticket.
Dependency. Something relies on something else. Workplace English again.
Another version. Can I add something here? It's a question, but it's directed at the room, not a fight.
Can I add something here? Sounds collaborative.
Collaborative, team-minded. You can also say, if I could pause us for a second, especially if the group is rushing.
Pause us. Slow the group down gently.
If you need urgency without panic. Real quick, I want to flag a timeline risk before we move on.
Before we move on, you're tying it to the flow of the meeting. You're not derailing, you're catching the train.
Derail, pull the meeting off track. You're trying to prevent that by being short.
Short is key. Long interruptions feel like speeches.
One more. I'd hate to slow us down, but then say the blocker. It acknowledges the group's time.
Acknowledge time. Polite. And it lowers defensiveness.
Defensiveness, people feeling attacked. You're not attacking, you're adding information.
What about volume? Do I need to speak louder?
Sometimes a little, but steady beats loud. Calm and clear reads as confident, not aggressive.
Steady beats loud. I'll remember that when my adrenaline spikes.
And timing. Catch the end of a sentence. People naturally breathe between ideas. That's your window.
Window. A short opportunity. Not waiting for a perfect silence that never comes.
Perfect silence is rare. Polite interrupting is partly courage and partly practice.
Practice out loud, so my mouth knows the phrase before the meeting does.
Exactly. That's how you interrupt politely in a meeting. You signal respect, then you deliver the point fast.
All right, I'm writing these down. Sorry to jump in. Can I add something? If I could pause for a second?
Good set. Pick 2 that feel natural in your voice. Natural beats fancy.
Natural beats fancy. My English gets fancy when I'm nervous. Too many words.
Fewer words, clearer point. That's respect for everyone in the room, including you.
Including me. Yeah. Next sync, I'm knocking, not kicking.
Knock, then say the blocker. 30 seconds can save 30 hours of wrong work.
30 hours. Okay. That's worth the awkward 2 seconds.
Awkward 2 seconds beats quiet regret.
Quiet regret. I've got enough of that. Thanks, Alex.
You've got the freezes. Now it's just reps and real rooms.
Reps. Practice rounds. I'll take the small awkward over the big silent.
Anytime. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining ProSpeak English Dialogue. We'll catch you in the next episode.